I really couldn't be bothered to wear a suit today. Anyway, hello, I'm Dan from DCS Media and welcome to the first proper episode of my new show, The Who Review, where we'll be looking at episode 1, or special 1 I should say, of Doctor Who's 60th anniversary, The Star Beast. So yeah, this is the proper start of the Who Review, where I'll actually be looking in depth at the 60th anniversary specials of Doctor Who, starting with our first one, The Star Beast, that aired a few days ago as I'm recording this, and you'll know from, if you've seen my channel, you'll know that I did my initial reaction video in the podcast format that I've always done, throughout the Jodie Whittaker era. But this is, I guess, the meat and potatoes. This is what you're really here for, the properly structured, in-depth analysis where I'll properly structure my thoughts, and now that I've let the episode sit over the past few days, my opinions are more refined and I will be talking about more specific details about the episode. So let's get to it. Now, The Star Beast is actually based on a Doctor Who comic strip from the late 70s, early 80s with Tom Baker's 4th Doctor during his time. And I can't speak, because I haven't read the comic, I can't speak of how faithfully it adapts that story. I mean, I know it's been adapted into Big Finish before, but I can't really speak in terms of it being an adaptation. But what I've gathered from, especially from the comments made by the original writers and illustrators of that comic, is that the spirit of that original comic is captured in this special. The kind of simple but timeless, pulpy sci-fi story of not judging a book by its cover, with the cute Beat the Meep alien turning out to be the bad guy, and the sinister Wrath warriors turning out to be the good guys, wanting to get a dangerous criminal to jail, really. It's a simple, tried and tested sci-fi formula, and I think it's executed very well here. I think the direction is something that really conveys this whole thing well, because Rachel Talalay, who directed a few of Peter Capaldi's episodes back then and who did a fantastic job on those, she's back to direct this special, and I think her direction is very clever. Obviously, with Disney Plus deal, the budget for the episode is a lot bigger, and I think you can definitely feel that with the action set piece and the effects and such. But I think Rachel Talalay's direction is very clever in how it misleads you. If you didn't know about the original comic, I think the direction can definitely mislead you. I think the way that the Wrath Warriors are shot very sinisterly, I think the low angles that are used often, or even how the shadow sort of encompasses characters, I think it's very clever and very good, visual storytelling to convey, or initially convey, that they're the bad guys, and then it's, I think, more effective when that is subverted, when it turns out, oh, they're not the bad guys, and especially with their kind of common voices, when we find out in that sort of mock trial scene. I think it adds to the comedy and the subversive nature of the story. Overall, this story did have a more of a light-hearted tone to it, and I imagine that the next two specials will be a lot darker in tone and a lot more serious and a bit downbeat. So I think it's great to have this kind of sense of pace and energy and fun was there in spades. The humour was great, especially the blending of the domesticity with the fantasy. I think it was great. With Beat the Meep especially, I think having a very cute, cuddly alien and, hidden in the toys, and then they find it, and Donna's reaction is great. That whole scene was really good. A little bit of a tangent, but I think something I noticed when I was thinking back on the episode was that we know that Beat the Meep is obviously evil, and Beat the Meep was originally to hide from Donna, hiding with Rose's toys in that shed. And we later find out, because of the whole meta-crisis subconscious thing, that Rose's toys that she makes were based on other Doctor Who monsters, like the Daleks, the Jadoon, the Ood. And I kind of saw that as a whole, kind of retrospectively thinking back, it's like, oh, Beat the Meep, another clue as to Beat the Meep being evil is that she's kind of, they're kind of surrounded with all of these toys resembling classic Who monsters. And I think that was kind of a clever little thing retrospectively. The plot is ultimately quite simple, as I said, but it's in execution, which is why I personally really enjoyed it. It's that fun energy that we had in older RTD stories. Things, stuff like Aliens of London or the Sontaran two-parter. It's that fun, bombastic, almost blockbuster-style energy. But I think here now, the production values that we have in 2023 have really matched that. I think now would be a good time to talk about the characters as well. So, I mean, we can start with Beat the Meep, actually, who was really a very fun antagonist. Miriam Margolyes, I think, did a great job with the vocals, both, as the cute, cuddly voice towards the start, and they're just mad rage later on. Although it would have been really funny if she started swearing. Somebody's got to make an edit of that. And I've got to say as well, in terms of the production, I think the Beat the Meep creature design, both the practical effects and the CGI special effects sort of enhancements, I think it makes the creature feel really alive, and it's really a testament to how far Doctor Who has come. I think to create a creature like that is really cool. Now let's talk about the main ensemble of characters. We've got the Doctor pretty much with the noble family. So let's start with David Tennant as the 14th Doctor. Now, I did say in my initial reaction that he did kind of feel like he was playing the 10th Doctor again, which I understand for this special because it's trying to draw people back in. I understand why playing it similar was probably a good thing, although I think it was more in his performance that I felt like we saw new nuances. Because obviously David Tennant is a bit older now, we see a different side to him. I think he's got a bit more gravitas, he's less energised and bouncy off the wall. I think the way he delivers certain lines, like his iconic, well, as I say, it's less energetic and more older, and it has that more of that gravitas, I feel. I don't really have loads to say about the pre-existing Noble family characters, like Donna, Catherine Tate can do this like that. Sean Temple is a character who didn't really get a lot to do back in the day, and I think he was given some nice character moments, like the opening taxi drive scene was a nice character building moment, and just, you know, he was a nice presence to see. Sylvia was really great, as I think she's probably the best that she's been, to be honest. I think I like seeing this new, fresh dynamic. Obviously, she's still Donna's mother, but now with Rose, she's a grandmother, and I think she's less overbearing and more considerate and kinder, and I like that progression of the character. It feels natural. Talking about the new characters, obviously we've got Rose played by Yasmin Finney, who I thought was a solid addition to the cast. I think she had a good performance. I think her interactions with other characters was really good. I liked the stuff with Beep towards the start. I think it was kind of cool, and I think it's solid representation. Obviously, I'm not the one to talk when it comes to that, but I will say it's really funny seeing people lose their minds over a 10-second scene, a throwaway scene about pronouns. It's quite funny, I'll go to be honest.
I hardly think Centauri would hurt a fly, would you?
No, I think he's rather sweet. Or is he a she?
Neither. She's an it. It's a hermaphrodite hexapod.
Oh.
And we also had Ruth Madley's character, the Shirley Ann, who was the new unit scientific advisor, and I think that was really cool. And I really liked her. And again, really solid representation, and that wheelchair with the missiles firing out of it, that's bloody cool as hell. I think she was really good. She was one that really stood out to me, I think, of the new characters. I think she had a real energy to her performance, and I loved her interaction with the Doctor. I think the only other major thing I want to talk about now is sort of the climax and the emotional resolutions, because obviously it's tying up the whole Dr. Donna meta crisis, Donna getting a memory wiped story from eons ago now, and I think some of the emotional stuff that the Doctor has to realise Donna has to die to save London, and I think Tennant plays it so well. They're acting when they're kind of reminiscing on the past, and I think both Tennant and Tate, I think, are really effective in those scenes. The only kind of critique I think I'd have of the episode is the climax felt quite rushed. Now, as I say, I'm not going to knock any representation. I think it's good, but the whole binary non-binary thing, there was something about it that kind of, it felt quite unclear to me, and I think now that I've let it mull over and heard other people talk about it, I think I get it, because it is the whole thing of, you know, emotion saving the day. It's like the whole, in Last of Time Lords, they save the day with prayer and saying Doctor, and it was that kind of thing. It was, and it felt like they sort of had to jump through quite a few narrative hoops just to get the whole binary non-binary thing. I don't know, was that the best way to depict it? I don't know. It felt kind of unclear to me, more from a narrative perspective. Representation, I ain't got no problem with. I should just clarify that. But this is why I like doing this Who review, because when I first watched it and got my initial reaction, I don't really know how to word it, but I definitely felt that I didn't get the ending necessarily. But now that I've let it mull over, this is why I say I like it, because I can properly express why I didn't quite get it and why I was maybe a little bit unsatisfied with the resolution of the story. I think talking about some more aesthetics things, because obviously, you know, new era, new sort of changes, you know, aesthetic changes like the sonic screwdriver, the TARDIS console room, the title sequence, the music and whatnot. I want to talk about some of these, and I probably won't be able to talk about them in future episodes, but sonic screwdriver I'm kind of conflicted on, because it's kind of cool that it can do the force field things, but it's a bit overpowered, it's a bit overused as well, which I was hoping we would get away from after Jodie's era, where it was used every 5 seconds, it seemed like. With the title sequence, I'm not mad on the title sequence, I don't think. I think there's something about the rendering that just doesn't feel right. There's something, it just doesn't feel right. I think in concept it probably would be better, because there's some nice movements, but I don't know if they're properly rendered or properly done right. Murray Gold's music, I don't really have a lot to say about it. I mean, I think there were some nice motifs from previous eras. There was one track which felt very I'm the Doctor from Series 5 and the Matt Smith era. What I do love in terms of new aesthetics, the new TARDIS console, I was in awe watching that reveal. I would just, it's such a great design. You know, I love the scale of it. It's so big. I like the cleaner aesthetic, you know, the white aesthetic. It's very nice and futuristic. I like the roundels. I like the fact that it will change colour, as evidenced by the red lights when it starts crashing towards the end. Donna spills the coffee, which is hilarious. Oh, and the TARDIS got a coffee maker. I mean, I'm not a coffee fan myself, but If it makes tea, then that's gonna. It's a fun addition, and it's just a beautiful looking set. But overall, my opinions on the Star Beast, now that I've let it sit with me and just gathered my thoughts, I don't think it's quite as good as I said it was. I think I gave it a 9 out of 10. It was like a low 9. I'd probably bump it to a high 8 or maybe an 8.5. I don't think 9 out of 10, because ultimately it is quite a simple story with a kind of rushed conclusion. But what I can't take away from it is, and what I made very clear in my initial reaction, is the just fun energy that I had watching it. It felt like being a kid again, and just watching, going on an adventure on a Saturday night and just basking in this wacky, fun, bonkers universe. It's a joy to watch, and it was a joy to watch. And I've got to say as well, the viewing figures are overnight figures that we've got. Obviously, I can't give 7-day figures, but overnight, just on broadcast, 5.08 million people watched the Star Beast on BBC One, and that doesn't include iPlayer, doesn't include catch up, and internationally doesn't include Disney Plus. So that's really good. I think it's the biggest launch of a drama in 2023, and it even outperformed I'm a Celebrity, which is pretty big reality show on ITV in the UK if you're outside the UK. But yeah, for Doctor Who to be doing that is actually quite impressive in this current TV climate. But anyway, that's enough of me rambling. Let's get to what you guys think. So I asked you on my review of The Star Beast, my initial reaction, to leave your thoughts in the comments and I'd read them. So let's start off with a friend member saying, I enjoyed it. It's not groundbreaking, it's just solid. Like episodes such as Gridlock, Smith & Jones, Partners in Crime, good character work and a brilliant solid romp. The series has been needing something this simple yet quality for some time. And I agree, it does have that kind of tone of the earlier stories in an RTD series, as there's ones you mentioned. I think I mentioned that with like the 2-parters. J Productions says, I also had an absolute blast with this episode. It was fun and pulpy, and I can already see myself going back to rewatch it. Beat the Meat is a legend, and the story itself was engaging. The heart was also ever present, and it was really sweet to see. I was also very surprised by how little fan service there was. There was definitely some, but it was nothing compared to Power of the Doctor, and I'm glad, honestly. It's a lot more standalone, and as a result, less overbearing. Overall, I love the special, 9 out of 10. And you are right about the fan service. There's not a lot of it. There's a couple of like little lines, and maybe like, the glass wall in the spaceship, a bit similar to The End of Time. But overall, it's quite light on fan service, and that's probably a good thing. Toby Coleman says, I had a blast with it. Loved the new titles and TARDIS Interior. I thought Rose and Shirley Ann were both really cool and well written, and hopefully will provide more positive representation moving forward. I was surprised with how much from the trailers was in this episode. I loved the bit when they talked about Wilf and the reference to Daenerys. I knew Meat was going to be evil, but maybe they could have done without the teeth. I bet Miriam Margolyes had a blast voice in it, probably, but it would have been funny if she was swearing. I'm not quite sure if I liked how they wrapped up the Meta Crisis, as it did feel like just letting go of it weakens the end of Journey's End. I can't wait to see what's next, and I'm loving this new era. Yeah, I pretty much agree. And Bon the Chaos says, I didn't like the Meat because it reminded me of an Ewok, which I didn't care much for either. I must be the only person on the planet who likes the Ewoks from Star Wars. Anyway, however, I liked how it changed from a lamb to a wolf. I'm excited to have Doctor Who back after such a dry spell. I agree with everything you said about the interior of the TARDIS and the quality of the production. I couldn't help but think of the low quality of the production when my late brother and I used to enjoy the John Pertwee episodes, and I said to myself, look how far the show has come. And that's a really lovely note to end on. It is, look how far the show has come. It's, technologically, storytelling, but it's still fun. And I think what I've seen mostly from people is they've had real fun with it. There's an energy, and it's great to talk about Doctor Who again, I think. So that was my in-depth review of the Star Beast. Hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you for Wild Blue Yonder. This is going to be an interesting episode. We don't know a lot about it, but stay tuned.